Welcome back to Debunking the Myths of Modular. In our last episode, I introduced the idea that do-it-yourself modular builders are a big part of what makes modular music making so special. This week, I'd like to expand on that idea by showing how the creativity of DIY builders has given us the diverse selection of modules and functions that makes modular music making so special. But first, a little background. As a young musician, I was fortunate to be invited to visit a company called Insonic. They flew me to their Malvern, Pennsylvania factory, and they taught me a lot about their instruments and how they make them. I sat in on one of their design marketing meetings and was given an opportunity to see how that company was designing keyboard synthesizers. Typically, they used a panel of engineers and marketing specialists to talk about what the next slate of products would look like and what features would be on the products. Having engineers involved in this process helped them to understand the financial impact of each decision that they made while designing a new product. For example, if they were going to add sampling to a new workstation keyboard, they knew how many hundreds of dollars that would add to the final price. Companies like Roland, Yamaha, Kurzweil, Alesis, Korg all use similar tactics when it comes to designing new products. Although this is a great way to design products that sell well, it also ensures that they're not going to take a lot of risks. They're not going to follow anyone's specifically creative design choices. In contrast, modules are designed in a completely different way. Modules are usually made by just one person who started their own little company, or it might be a small company with a few employees. Module designs are often the creation of one designer, one circuit builder, who has some very special, unique ideas about what he can get a circuit to do and how that can add to our music making. It's a little bit like a single Stradivarius designing and building his own violin. In the background music, we're listening to my piece, Step Lively, from my album Feet of Clay, which is made entirely using Scott Stites' remarkable clay sequencer. In his website documentation, Scott talks a lot about the process that he went through to design this very unique sequencing module. In fine do-it-yourself fashion, Scott found some really cool-looking extra parts laying around, and he got curious about what kinds of circuits he could build using these extra parts. With the help of some friends on the Electro Music Forum, Scott was able to eventually make circuit boards so that other people could build his very unique design. There are several different shapes and sizes of the clay sequencer. You can get it in 5U for Moog systems, and you can get it in the gorgeous Euro panel like I've got. It's a very unique design because unlike a regular sequencer, the clay sequencer lets you have multiple bits that move through these steps active at the same time. So this means that it's capable of creating an unending stream of melodic control voltages as it moves from step to step, adding or reducing bits. It's hard to imagine how all of this works until you really sit in front of one and start to mold it into something useful for you. And it really does feel a little bit like molding clay, part of why it's named that. I cannot imagine one of the big MI keyboard manufacturers ever adding a piece of hardware to one of their keyboards that's anything like the clay sequencer. It just wouldn't make any sense to them. It's too difficult to explain to the consumer how to play with it, and it just wouldn't add to sales enough. But in the modular world, it makes complete sense to us, and it's part of what makes patching so much fun. And speaking of fun patching, some of you might recognize Doc Sketchy's amazing Freakshift frequency shifter. A couple of years ago, I was watching Doc Sketchy as he outlined his designs for a Bode-style frequency shifter that he was building to fit into his Frankenstein Moog-style silver-cased rack. I had been looking for a frequency shifter, and so I wrote to the good doctor to try to persuade him to squeeze one of these giant behemoth modules into a Euro rack size so I could fit one into my case. He had been working on a new version 2 light design that didn't include its own internal oscillator, and he was able to sell me one of those with a custom Eurorack faceplate and the 7-inch long circuit boards sticking out the back of the module. But of course, in fine do-it-yourself style, Doc Sketchy wasn't happy with this, and he started racking his brains looking for ways to shrink down his circuit board design so that he could put it on several boards that would fit behind a faceplate and fit into a regular-sized Eurorack case. He solved the problem with the circuit boards, and he was able to order and manufactured faceplates for a nicer look, and pretty soon he started taking orders for the new Freakshift just as my demo of the module hit YouTube. Follow the link to see my original Freakshift YouTube video. Specialty modules like the Doc Sketchy Freakshift and the Scott Stites Clay sequencer certainly don't sell in the hundreds of thousands the way keyboards like Korg M1s and Yamaha DX7s did back in the early 2000s. But that's not really the point. Modular music making is about finding interesting circuits that'll do things with your audio and your control voltages that will ultimately allow you to make the most expressive patches possible. Just as advances in technology back in the Middle Ages created musical instruments that allowed beautiful music to be composed and played, so too the explosion in circuitry, a result of the hard work of do-it-yourselfers, has created a modular landscape of modules and circuitry available for composers that we just haven't seen before. People like synth-punk are completely missing the boat. They simply just don't understand that the keyboard synthesizers that they buy don't have any of the kind of circuitry in it that's available in modular synths, largely because of where that circuitry comes from. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Please consider joining my Patreon. It helps me to make more videos and more modular music. And please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time as we continue debunking the myths of modular.